And Mike Smith, Hall of Famer. These two guys hook up and win all the time. The old adage of the longer price of the uncoupled entry up there at 6-1 on the board.
And you would think he's one of the keys early on to this race because they experimented, it seems. Maybe the ride was questionable. Maybe it just wasn't one of those days for collected. They took him back. It didn't work out at 1-5. He'll be going after the 4, you would think. Sharp Azteca, who for my money is the best dirt miler in training. And I'm thrilled to see him here. And I think you're thinking, open the gate, get to the lead, never look back.
As I always mention, spent a lot of time here at Gulfstream Park, and I got speed always on my mind, stretching out the 9 furlongs. That's the unknown. After that powerful front-running score in the Grade 1 Cigar Mile, I'm looking for him to open and go. Talked to Jorge Navarro, his trainer, a little while ago. He said he can't be doing any better. He's ready to go. He is so positive about this horse today, and that's who I put on top for those exact reasons. But do I disrespect Gunrunner? Not a bit. He's on my exacta.
Well, I'll tell you, in terms of looking swell, Sharp Azteca has trained like a machine this week.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been the talk of the racetrack. He's been on fire and just training fantastically. And, you know, I like when I know what the plan is. And the plan is this horse is going to go to the lead, and let's see if he can do it. Now, the big unknown, the big question mark, 9 furlongs.
Yes, he'll try to go the mile in a furlong, but as Ronnie said, hey, this is Gulfstream Park. We have seen horses in big races, maybe not as big as the Pegasus, but with far less accomplishments on their resume than a legitimate Grade 1, insanely raw, talented horse like Sharp Azteca, and he's co-third choice right now at 6-1. Gunrunner sitting at 10-1. Do you give the 8 War Story, who's got Jose Ortiz, a former face at Tipton auction buy, and the other runner in the race for Jorge Navarro, any chance to maybe get up in the mix?
I think he can get in the mix. We have, of course, the exacta, trifecta, superfecta wager, and I think the horses like that could be on it. It just, I can't wait to see how this race shape plays out. Who goes to the lead? Who sits off? Gunrunner. Also, 9 furlongs. Tough outside post, going post 10 for Gunrunner. And I'm so excited I didn't know what else to say.
It's an awesome scene here at Gulfstream. Check out that view from way up top. Place is absolutely electric and raucous, and they're on their feet a good 6 deep out from the fountain in the walking ring. Standing room only on each side of the walking ring. And this field of 12 will meet the starter momentarily. The post parade for the $16 million Pegasus is up next.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gulfstream Park and the Stronach Group proudly present to you now the world's richest race, the $16 million Pegasus World Cup Invitational. At 1.125 miles over a fast main track, it's a Grade 1 contest with more than $16 million on the line. Scraps the 13, Giuseppe the Great, and the 14, Game Over. We have a field of 12. And now presenting the field for the 2018 Pegasus World Cup. Number 1 is Singing Bullet, owned by Pegasus race participants and Stronach Group and trained by Dale Romans. The jockey is Robbie Alvarado. Number 2 is West Coast, owned by Gary and Mary West and trained by Bob Baffert. The jockey Javier Castellano. Number 3, Stellar Wind. She's owned by Mr. Derek Smith, Mr. Michael Tabor, and Mrs. John Magner, and trained by Chad Brown, with Joel Rosario. Number 4 is Sharp Azteca, owned in partnership by Gelfenstein Farm, Martin Scharf, Ashley Corderolo, and Luch Racing, trained by Jorge Navarro, the jockey Irad Ortiz Jr. Number 5 is Collected, sports the silks of Speedway Stable, and is trained by Bob Baffert, with Mike Smith up. Number 6 is the local horse Gunrunner, owned by Margoth and Gallo Stables and trained by Antonio Sano, with Luis Saez. Number 7 is Fear the Cowboy, owned by Stronach Stables, Gerald Frankel, Ronald Frankel, Rafael Santafonte, and Kathleen Amaya. Conditioned by Efren Loza Jr. the jockey Tyler Gaffleon. Number 8 is War Story, owned by Luch Racing, Glenn Ellis, Imaginary Stables, and Pegasus Race Participants, and trained by Jorge Navarro. The jockey, Jose Ortiz. Number 9 is Toast of New York, owned by Al Shakab Racing, Reeves Thoroughbred Racing, R.A. Hill Stable, and Eric Young, and trained by Jamie Osborne with Frankie Dettori. Number 10 is Horse of the Year, Gunrunner, owned by the Winchell Thoroughbreds in Three Chimneys Farm, and trained by Steve Asmussen with Florent Giroux. The 11 is Seeking the Soul, is owned by Charles Fipke and trained by Dallas Stewart with John Velasquez. And rounding out the field, number 12, Giant Expectations, owned by X-Line Border Racing, Gatto Racing, Garrett Zuboff, and Pegasus Race Participants, and trained by Peter Urton. In the irons, Gary Stevens. That's the field of 12 to go 1 mile and 1/8 for more than $16 million. The Pegasus World Cup is up next.
It's almost the moment that we've all been waiting for. It's time for the second running of the Pegasus World Cup Invitational, the $16 million world's richest race. 12 elite horses will break from the starting gate right behind me, going that 1.125 miles distance. I'm standing just outside the winner's circle. It's a very short run into the first turn. I can see it pretty clearly from right here where I'm standing as they're warming up and getting ready to head into the gate in just a few moments. And that post position really is crucial. That's been one of the talks about your horse of the year, the number 10 Gunrunner. He is my top pick, and I've said this before. I think he's the horse to beat, but he's not necessarily unbeatable. He is breaking from an outside post. That will make his hand be a little bit more forced. Speaking to jockey Florent Giroux, who's gotten to know this horse just so well, he does say that he will be forwardly placed from the outside, but not necessarily on the lead like they were in the Breeders' Cup Classic. One of the things I love about the partnership that Gunrunner and Florent Giroux do have together is that Florent just lets the horse dictate really how the race is going to play out. He's gotten to know him so well. He trusts his mount. He knows that he's well prepared, and he lets Gunrunner take him where he wants to go. Now, Gunrunner did ship in about a week ago here at Gulfstream Park. He's gotten acclimated. He's worked over the track on Monday. He's galloped several times, paddock schooled a couple of times as well to get a feel of the surrounding here. But he's traveled to so many different tracks. You can see him warming up with his neck bowed. Again, as I said earlier, he knows what time it is, and he knows exactly what's ahead of him. I think one of the best things about the Pegasus World Cup Invitational is the time of year that it is, and the fact that we do get to see this horse race one more time to close out his absolutely exceptional career. Looking at some others, though, we said this field really does run deep. Number 2, West Coast is 4-1 right now as a distant second choice to your 4-5 favorite Gunrunner. I spoke to trainer Bob Baffert earlier this week when both West Coast and his other horse in here collected paddock schooled, and he said that he thought that West Coast had really developed heading into his 4-year-old season. Of course, West Coast just crowned the Eclipse champion 3-year-old the other night at the Eclipse Awards, but West Coast sometimes really does get very keyed up in the afternoons, and Bob had a great line saying that sometimes he's run half a race already before we even get the tack on. I thought saddling he was okay. Coming into the walking ring certainly had quite a bit of energy. And then when they got on the track and they started the post parade, West Coast did resemble a little bit of a bucking bronco, just kicking a little bit and just very keen to get going. He's still on his toes. He still has quite a bit more energy, but I think that energy is a bit more contained now. Jockey Javier Castellano rode him in the Breeders' Cup Classic, where he was running against much more seasoned horses, and he ran a very respectable third last time out. I do also think it's worth noting that he's 2 for 2 at this 9-furlong distance, which is, of course, what they're going to run. He's got an inside post this afternoon. I think it's good for his running style. He'll be forwardly placed along the inside. Of course, the break really is imperative with the way that this track is designed. So West Coast, a little bit acting up in the post parade, but does seem to have settled nicely now. He's kind of got that energy bubbling underneath the surface. Now the number 4, Sharp Azteca. This is a horse that has won at Gulfstream. In fact, he's actually won 3 times here locally at Gulfstream Park. He is arguably the best miler that we've seen. Jockey Arad Ortiz in the saddle with his feet out of the irons, keeping this horse relaxed. He looks a picture, and I've always said this, he is one of the most beautiful horses, just in his coat, in his physique, in the way that he is put together. He's been exceptional in his last couple of starts, even when he was beaten by Battle of Midway in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. He ran a huge performance on that day at a track that he necessarily wasn't familiar with, and I thought it was a big performance from him. He pulled away. He won the Gulfstream Park Handicap here back in February. He likes this track, and he trains just 8 miles west at Gulfstream Park West for Jorge Navarro, who does, of course, have 2 in here. He also has the number 8 War Story. Now, War Story is the only horse to have run in last year's Pegasus World Cup as well. He was 4th in the Breeders' Cup Classic. What I do think is beneficial about War Story and how muscular he is and his just grinding, relentless running style is that he is going to be one, kind of reminds me a little bit of a Keen Ice type who's just going to be picking up the pieces late. He's almost like an Energizer bunny coming down in the stretch in that he's just relentless. And I think that that's certainly one of the fun things about this horse and how honest and consistent he is. He did win the Grade 2 Brooklyn earlier this year as well. Obviously the benefit this year versus last year when he did run 5th in the Pegasus World Cup is that Jorge Navarro had 4 weeks to prepare this horse with Pegasus last year, and he's been in this barn now for a year, so you have to imagine that he had taken a step forward. Those are my top 4 picks. I'm using 10, 2, and 4 for my win bets in here, but looking at some others, as we do have an incredibly deep and competitive field here, have to mention the number 3, Stellar Wind. This is all about the girl power. She is the first filly or mare to take on the boys in this event, and she is just incredibly classy. She has won 10 out of her 16 career starts, earned more than $2.2 million. I saw her paddock school the other day here at Gulfstream, and I thought it was even one of the best appearances that she had ever made. She's always been a little bit on the daintier side. She always gets those dapples and, of course, has those very unique markings on her face, but she's put on some weight. She looks incredibly fit. She's a beautiful mover as well. It's a big hurdle for her, and speaking of trainer Chad Brown, he said it's a really tough ask, but it should be. This should be this kind of tough world-class race. And so she does have her work cut out for her this afternoon, but again, I really do like what I see from her. Just to touch touch on one other and round things out. The number 9 Toast of New York has just been one of the greatest stories to follow, and this field is just riddled with incredible stories. Toast of New York, off that 3-year layoff, came back with a win at Lingfield. I think he looks very fit. He's handled himself well. He stayed on the horse path. In fact, he was the first to head out onto the track before the post parade did start. Frankie Dettori got a feel of the track and a win here yesterday for trainer Dale Romans. Of course, he hadn't ridden since 1999 at Gulfstream Park, but great to have him in town. The horses are approaching the starting gate now. It's all about the even money on the number 10 Gunrunner, your horse of the year. We'll see if he can put the perfect exclamation point on a stellar career as they head to the starting gate. Pete Aiello has the call for the second running of the Pegasus World Cup Invitational.
The horses are approaching this starting gate. Last chance to wager on the Pegasus World Cup. And the horses have reached the starting gate. It's post time for the 2018 Pegasus World Cup. $16 million, a field of 12 at 1 1/8 miles around the Hallandale Beach Oval. Fear the Cowboy and Singing Bullet, the first two to move into the gate. Here's War Story and West Coast. Stellar Wind. European Invader, Toast of New York. Sharp Azteca. Collected is ready. Next to move in is the Horse of the Year, Gunrunner. Seeking the Soul and Gunnavera. Giant Expectations and Gary Stevens to the outside. They're in the gate. And they're off in the Pegasus World Cup. Beautiful beginning for Gunrunner, and Florent Giroux wasting no time. He's going to use some of his speed to get position, but Mike Smith has beat him to the punch as Collected moves to the rail and moves to the lead. It's Collected in front. Gunrunner gets the spot he wants. He's second in the two-path with West Coast at the inside third. Followed fourth by Giant Expectations. Sharp Aztec is a bit keen. Angled 3 wide while racing in fifth. It's 2 back to Toast of New York, mid-flight and 5 lengths off the pace setter. Then comes War Story and Gunnavera. Seeking the Soul is next, followed by Stellar Wind and Fear the Cowboy, and Singing Bullet is last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch. The opening quarter, 23-2. Down the backstretch they go. Collected has the lead. Horse of the Year, Gunrunner, latched onto him well second from Giant Expectations in third. West Coast is at the inside fourth, a length better than Sharp Azteca fifth. Then Toast of New York sixth and about 5 lengths off the lead. 2 in front of Seeking the Soul, who improves inside of War Story. Then Gunnavera and Stellar Wind. Fear the Cowboy given the green light to try to make some ground, and Singing Bullet is still last as they swing around the far turn. 46-3 for the opening half mile. Slowly but surely, Gunrunner turns up the pressure, and there he goes. Gunrunner at the 3 furlong point now takes the lead. Collected is all in. West Coast working into the clear now, and the Travers winner is going to try to get to the Breeders' Cup winner as they go to the quarter-mile pole. Giant Expectations is scrubbed on by Gary Stevens with Sharp Azteca wide. It's a less than a quarter of a mile to go. 3 quarters, 1:10-1, and they're out the top of the stretch. Gunrunner set down for the drive by Florent Giroux. He leads by 2. West Coast, the only one with a chance. He's second. Well clear of the others. A battle on for third with Fear the Cowboy coming on. Gunrunner needs another 16th. It's Gunrunner in front. He'll go out a winner. He's the Horse of the Year, and he's Gunrunner with an unforgettable performance in the Pegasus World Cup. He won by 2 over West Coast second. The local horses did well. Gunnavera got third. Fear the Cowboy was fourth, and the final time was 1:47-2. Gunrunner. Number 10, Gunrunner first. Number 2, West Coast second. Number 6, Caravera third. Number 7, Fear the Cowboy fourth. Number 11, Seeking the Soul finished fifth. Numbers on the board 10, 2, 6, 7, and 11. The result of the Pegasus World Cup is now official.